Hey everyone, and welcome to my review for House of the Dragon Season 3 Episode 7, The Dragon in Winter. Well, this was quite the episode. Although another slow one, the scenes seemed to swing wildly from awful to amazing. Overall, I was pretty disappointed this episode didn't feature the Battle of Tumbleton, as they really seem to be stretching it out, and I'm starting to get the impression they may combine the first and second Battles of Tumbleton into a singular event in the last episode of this season. But even so, there were definitely some massive highlights in this one I was happy to see. So let's get into the positives, starting with our glimpse into Helena's dreams of her possible futures. First, we see what appears to be option 1, which is her giving birth to Maelor with the child immediately taken away. Then we see option 2, which is her trying to escape the capital on her dragon Dreamfire, which is only possible if she's willing to breathe fire on a crowd and kill many people. And option 3, which is her somehow able to peacefully escape with her children and have her dream life of raising chickens, only for darkness to surround them, which seems to mean this path of happiness will lead to the long night and possible end of humanity. So it's pretty sad to see Helena is really starting to understand there's no hope for a happy ending. It was also pretty upsetting watching Rhaenyra try and force her to provide information about the future, but it does make sense the queen would start to obsess about this knowing she has access to a dreamer. Then there was Ormond Hightower eating with Corlys Velaryon, who refuses to accept this attempt at hospitality. I like this scene, though it was a little silly Ormond asked why the Velaryons support the Targaryens, especially since they previously established Ormond's a student of history, so we should know that they share Valyrian heritage, and have been long-time allies and intermarried many times. Of all the houses in Westeros, the Velaryons have the most reason for loyalty to the Targaryens. Back in the capital, I like that Rhaenyra finally fulfilled her son's pledge to House Frey by granting them Harrenhal, though it should have been a more deliberate declaration instead of her just seeming to grant it so the Frey woman would shut up. I also like Daemon's apology and explanation to the queen about his reasons for deceiving her about Rhaena. He seems sincere here, and I think Rhaenyra should have been more understanding, since she would probably give anything to go back and do a better job protecting her sons who died. Moving on to the negatives, I'll start with the horribly uncomfortable Aemond and Alicent scenes, including his fantasy and getting upset when he realized Alice Rivers was not his mother. This was not fun to watch. Honestly, it all just felt so gross and unnecessary I almost skipped it entirely. Even setting aside that none of this was in the books, is there anyone that actually thinks this is a good addition to the show, or in any way interesting? Aemond killing Alicent's guard was a pretty cool though predictable kill, and Alice calling Aemond an idiot when he was poisoned was pretty funny. But I really would have just preferred to stick with Alice and Aemond, rather than throwing in Alicent seemingly just to give the actress something to do. Next I'll mention the forced love triangle between Alan, Adam and Baela. These scenes are fine for what they are, but they just seem unnecessary in my opinion and waste screen time that could have been given to a more interesting storyline. The only reason I can think of for these scenes is that maybe they want Adam to feel betrayed and hurt by the other two, which gives him more of a reason to take bigger risks in the future. Then there's almost everything related to Rhaena. Her storyline and character are so incredibly uninteresting to me, and such a sad departure from the Nettle storyline in the books, which would have been way better. It was kind of funny though hearing Lady Jane Eyre reference nettles when she said to Daemon, a wild girl in the mountains living amongst nettles and sheep. And while I don't like this storyline, there was one scene involving Rhaena that I really liked, which I'll get to later on. And the last thing I'll mention here is pretty much all the Mysaria scenes. I really feel like this character had a lot of potential, and she was actually doing a pretty good job at the beginning, but she's really gone downhill since then and now just seems to be useless and silly in every scene she's in. During the scene in the throne room, I like that her friend called her out on play acting as a noble, when in reality they'll never accept her as one of them. But I feel like she shouldn't need that pointed out to her. She could have been a much more interesting character if she was truly cunning and conniving from the beginning, playing all sides against each other for her own benefit and becoming a true power broker like Varys and Littlefinger. I also don't really get why they're pushing the Rhaenyra and Mysaria romance stuff so haphazardly. If this was the direction they wanted to go, why not have them actually be a couple throughout the season? Or at least show some romantic tension or longing, instead of basically dropping this storyline after they first kissed, which also had no setup, and then randomly bringing it back just for one scene. Especially when Rhaenyra went there to scold her for being manipulative and wrong about Daemon, only to drop it completely and walk right into another manipulation by the end of the scene. So now let's get into my top 5 moments of the night, starting with the would-be king Daeron Targaryen talking to his uncle Gwaine Hightower about the madness of the puppet master Ormond Hightower. I really like both these characters, and it's nice seeing them have a moment together as they're some of the most genuine, honorable, and rational people in this entire series. I also like that they're underestimating Ormond, who definitely does seem like an irrational lunatic, but is also an extremely clever and cunning strategist who has orchestrated a very impressive campaign against seemingly impossible odds, and has put himself in the best position to achieve victory. Moving on to the number 4 spot, I went with loyal Tywin Lannister staying with Aegon, willing to die by his side for the sake of honor and duty, while the much more pragmatic Larys Strong takes off at the first opportunity. None of this was in the books, but I actually think they've done a pretty good job with Aegon, developing his character to the point where I still find him arrogant, selfish, dumb, and delusional, but at the same time can't help feeling sorry for him, and on some level wanting him to survive and grow as a person. For the third best moment, I chose the Ulf betrayal scene, where he's drinking with Ormond Hightower, who's flattering him and doing all he can to secure another dragon rider to his side, even offering Driftmark as a reward for changing allegiances. Honestly, I can't even blame Wolf for doing this, given how terribly he's been treated by the Blacks. Not only has Rhaenyra refused to honor her word and reward them with the households she promised, but her and Daemon take every opportunity to humiliate and restrict him, in no way treating him like a valued part of the team. In the books, Ulf is portrayed as much more selfish and dishonorable, switching sides simply out of greed and gluttony. But in the show, I think they've done a good job making his betrayal seem more reasonable, as what person wielding that much power would accept being treated so poorly? At the number 2 spot, I went with Aegon's glorious last stand, where he gives a powerful speech to enemy soldiers, ready to die with honor, only for Sunfire to return and save his rider. This was pretty awesome. I'm really glad Sunfire's back, which means his important role in future events will likely still occur. And it's always fun watching a dragon breathe fire and destroy all those before him. Not only was this good for Aegon, but now Tywin's loyalty will likely be heavily rewarded, as he's first in line to be Hand of the King should Aegon return to power. And now, for the best moment of the episode, I went with the awesome dragon fight scene, where Sheepstealer took on Caraxes, Syrax, and Seasmoke all at once. Okay, so first of all, I have to put aside that I didn't like the Rhaena-related setup for the scene, or how she abandoned her dragon. But the actual fight itself was pretty amazing, as this was the first time we've really seen dragons go at it in an all-out brawl on the ground. Of course, I felt horrible for Sheepstealer, who didn't deserve any of this, and I'm glad at least he survived and will hopefully recover. But it was crazy seeing him take out Syrax and likely would have taken out Seasmoke, if not for the much more experienced and vicious Caraxes taking over and nearly killing him. This was badass, and I really hope we get to see more quality fight scenes like this during the Battle of Tumbleton next week. For the best kill of the episode, I went with Sunfire burning the enemies of his rider Aegon II. And for the best line of the night, I'll go with Tywin Lannister staying loyal to his king when he says, "If the king wishes to remain, then I shall remain with him. I cannot leave him to face an army meant for me." So that's it for my review of House of the Dragon Season 3 Episode 7, The Dragon in Winter. For the most part, I thought this was another slow episode that I largely didn't care for, but which also featured some incredibly epic and fun scenes that I loved. This episode would probably be a 6 out of 10 for me, but the dragon fight and Sunfire scene pull it to a 7 out of 10. But what did you all think? How did you like the dragon fight? What do you think of the return of Sunfire? And how do you feel about Ulf betraying Rhaenyra? Let me know in the comments below, and if you haven't already, be sure to check out my Prelude to the House of the Dragon Season 3 video, along with my other A Song of Ice and Fire videos, like the complete histories of Hugh Hammer and Ulf the White, the second Riverlands campaign, Criston Cole, and the first Battle of Tumbleton. I'll link all those and more in the comments below, and remember to watch my regular Sunday lore videos, which will focus on the Dance of the Dragons until the end of the season, along with my weekly reviews for the show. So with only one episode left, I want to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. A special thanks to all those who contribute to CivilizationEx, like Warden of the X, Spectral Knight, Lord Commander of the Eternal Legion, Sir Loin, Werebear of the Great North, Sir Elendil of Numenor, and Javenya Targaryen. If you'd like to help the channel, be sure to give a like, leave a comment, subscribe, and click on the links below, or else go to patreon.com/CivilizationEx, where you can gain early access to videos and watch the Patreon-only series, Heroes of Lore and Legend.